Welcome back to the Pesky Report, episode 544, presented by Beyond the Monster. I'm Jordan, joined by Jason and Jake. And we've got a little emergency episode here, a much more upbeat one than the last one. Red Sox signing Ranger Suarez to a 5-year, $130 million contract. No opt-outs, no deferred money. How you see it is how he's going to get it. I guess we'll go around and quickly give our initial reaction. I'll start with you, Jake. Your first thoughts on Ranger Suarez coming to Boston.
I mean, I'm fired up. Like this guy, and I think that's how Red Sox fans I think are going to feel, especially late in the season, when Suarez is hopefully out there doing the stuff that he's done his whole career with the Phillies. First off, like I was shocked. Like I didn't really see this coming. There were some reports just today, or I guess over the last couple of days since the Bregman news came out, that Suarez was somebody that like some people in the Red Sox front office liked, and maybe there was some division about that. But and then there was like another report about that this morning, and it was just kind of like easy to brush it off, like okay, whatever. Like we hear this about everybody. Like there's some interest and whatever, and then yeah, I guess it was Heyman that had it first. Just and the number, the contract like is super reasonable. I think it's 26 million AAV over 5 years is pretty good for a top of the rotation starter. And that is, and then I just the more that's come out, like I think that after Bregman signed with the Cubs, I said this pretty quickly. I was like, well, what if the pivot here is to pitching and defense, which I know like is annoying and it's not sexy and it's not as fun, but it is like the basis of how you win, and how you go deep in the postseason. And I think that adding Suarez, you're adding a dog at the top of the rotation, like a guy who just is battle tested. He has been great in the postseason in his career. He was on the mound. He got like it was a 2-pitch save to clinch the NLCS in 2022. Like he was on the mound when the Phillies beat the Padres and clinched that NLCS. And so that's the kind of guy that like slots in perfectly at the top of the rotation with. And it's debatable. I think like maybe in a playoff situation you would have Crochet. You would try to have Crochet be the number 1. Maybe Gray comes in as the number 2 to break up the lefty. Suarez is 3. That is a battle tested, tough playoff caliber rotation that you can go deep and have a World Series run with those 3 guys. Absolutely 100%. There are sometimes when the Red Sox get somebody or another, or somebody else goes to another team from the Red Sox, I always think of like what is the reaction of the other team, like whether especially like getting a guy from the other team's fans when you get a guy. And I think that Phillies fans are really bummed out right now. Like that's my sense. I have a very close friend who is a Phillies fan. He's also like one of his parents is a Phillies fan and one of his parents is a Red Sox fan. So he's kind of like has a little bit of a split loyalty, but he's mostly a Phillies fan and a Philly sports fan. And I asked him, I'm like, what are we getting in Ranger Suarez? And he says, you guys are getting a killer. And he said there's going to be a start late in the season where he's going to go into Yankee Stadium and rip their hearts out. Like that is the guy that we're getting with Ranger Suarez. So there's drawbacks. He has had some injury stuff. He's never made more than 30 starts in a regular season. I think each of the last 2 years he's had back issues crop up, which back issues with pitchers scare me a little bit. But I guess I would take that over having arm and elbow issues and shoulder issues. So, and I think that his arsenal is the type of arsenal that's going to age well, as a guy that doesn't throw particularly hard, but is like a control master and a weak contact guy. Like, I think he's a perfect complement to the other guys. Obviously, like we really only have Gray for like 1 year, right? But he's a perfect complement, I think, especially to Crochet. giving you just like a different look where Crochet is this all power, power, power. And now you're the guy that's like slotted in now as you're really going to be your second guy on the rotation for the next few years is a very different pitcher that's going to give a team, especially in a postseason series, a very different look, but is also extremely effective at getting guys out. So in a vacuum, and I'm sure we're going to get into what this means for the rest of the offseason, but in and of itself, I think it's an excellent contract, and it's the right type of guy with the right type of personality. We got a guy that is battle tested, like has pitched well in a big market, and has pitched extremely well in the postseason. Like those are really valuable things.
Yeah, I think, but I was told like entering the offseason, the two top lefties on the market were obviously Suarez and Framber Valdez. And I feel like Framber's probably going to get something relatively close. He'll get
Yeah.
more in terms of
Yeah.
money, but as far as years go, probably 5 years as well. But after the cross-up gate thing, like I was pretty much all the way out on Framber. Even if you want to chalk it up as like a one-time, like, he just lost his head. Like, I can never unsee that. Like, and like knowing that he's got that in him to just be a prick to his own catcher because he gave up a grand slam. Like, I was all the way out for Amber, fully in on Ranger Suarez. My reaction to them signing him was literally just, oh, that's cool. I mean, like, not like in the sense that I'm underwhelmed. It's just, it's weird now, given the fact that they've added 2 starters already this offseason, in Oviedo and Gray. And he's kind of the opposite of the kind of pitcher that they've been coveting from a lefty standpoint. Elite extension, throws the shit out of the ball. Now Suarez is, like you said, he's very crafty. His changeup's among the best pitches in all of baseball. But his fastball, he's a very low extension guy, and he does not throw the ball very hard. So it's good to vary looks. I also agree he's a 2 or the 3. I would probably put Gray above him in general, not just to break up the lefties, but I think still, I mean, you're talking where the Red Sox were in that postseason series with the Yankees, going Crochet to Bayo to Connolly early.
Right.
Even if you want, let's just throw Giolito there. Like, they have significantly upgraded from those 3. Even if you want to go the Giolito route instead of Connolly, because he would have been pitching that game had he not been hurt. As for as much crap as the Red Sox have rightfully gotten regarding their lineup this offseason, they have built a super rotation. Not to immediately put the bad omen out there because of the super pen shit with the Yankees last season, but this rotation is among the best in all of baseball, and definitely in the American League. I think it's been it was a fantastic move for the Red Sox. I'm very curious to see how the rest of the rotation shakes out, because now they have 12 guys on the 40-man that have made at least 10 MLB starts. I'm counting Jordan Hicks and Garrett Whitlock, but like, they've got a ton of dudes who've made big league starts, and a good amount of them. And I'm curious to see if this means they're willing to part with somebody from that rotation, somebody in the back end of the rotation, whether it be Bayo, whether it be one of the young guys early, or Tolley to get another bat. I'm just curious to see kind of what the response is from the Red Sox, and how because they still have to address the lineup, how they're going to do that, and what this means for the guys in the rotation that were here before they signed Ranger Suarez 3 hours ago. Jason, what were your thoughts on the Suarez deal?
I mean, immediately you look at like the past like off season or two, the acquisitions or the people they got were kind of either reclamation projects or, short term deals. Like last offseason, they get Walker Buehler, which there were some concerns there, but high upside. But, we saw what happened. It did not work. And what did they do? They had to pivot to rely on Bayo and Giolito to be the 2 and 3 throughout the whole season. Did it work? Sure. But I think ultimately, too, what this tells me is they're getting a plethora of pitchers, because they saw last season their depth, right? Going into Yankee Stadium, they had essentially 3 guys, Crochet, Bayo, and Early, because Giolito went down, and then all the other options they had were gone. They're hurt, or not. Dustin May was hurt. Obviously, Giolito was hurt. Fitz got hurt. So I think they want to learn from their mistakes, kind of, and gearing up for a whole year. And they traded Dobbins, they traded Fitz this year. So kind of continuing to double down on that rotation, being, the run defense, like Jake said, that, and good defensive metrics from players. They did get Wilson Contreras, who is a really good defender at first. It's interesting. And I'm shocked that they went 5 years, which is the first time I'm trying to think the last time they signed a free agent to more than 2 years on a pitcher. What might have been, was it Price that they signed
pitcher?
A pitcher to his free agent contract longer than 2 years? It honestly, well, no, it was, wasn't Eovaldi, he was a free agent after 2018, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He got,
and then
he got
that was
4
4
years,
years.
though.
Yeah.
Right.
I think
longer than 2. So yeah.
So first time in a while, point being they have made a splash on, a pitcher, and he's age 30. So you're going to get him through his age 35, 36 season. And, I love all the metrics. It's just, I'm intrigued. I think we'll definitely talk about it, how this impacts the rest of the roster and how the rest of the CBT hit, because they're very close to the second threshold, if not over.
They're over it.
Yeah. So, and we know they probably have a self-imposed budget, which I'm interested to see what they do. I don't know what that looks like. And they have moves that they still need to make too, right? They have to address the left side of the infield. As much as we like Marcelo Meyer, you got to also remember that Nate Eaton's the second in command. And then after Nate Eaton's Mikey Romero, which that is very thin. You still have the outfield logjam, but I think you're also at a spot where you really can't trade Duran for pitching or prospects, because then you're making the offense significantly worse. So they got to get creative, and who's going to be that guy? That's a great question. And I think the Red Sox are exploring their options, and there's still, about a month till spring training, a little less than a month till spring training. And I think more dominoes are going to start to fall, and I think we'll talk about it more, but overall, like this move a lot. Double down the rotation. You're getting a stud. You're getting a guy who's proven in the playoffs as an ERA below 1.5, which is insane. It's someone who you're comfortable starting behind Crochet. I know, Sonny Gray is the number 2, but you're comfortable with him. If you're going to a game 2
I have
or
a narrative.
3,
I'm sorry.
No, but point stands. They honestly probably will do that.
Yeah.
But you're confident. You have not 1, not 2, but 3 pitchers you're probably confident starting in postseason games.
And I wouldn't be so quick to dismiss Bayo as somebody I'm confident in. I just think he had a crappy start. It was really bad. I still think he'll get better. If, again, not to jump too far ahead, if he's still here, again, they've got to figure out the lineup. I don't think they're going to trade Bayo. I think we're a year away from real dialogue about Bayo's future with the Red Sox. But I mean, they're deep in the rotation, and then they still obviously have the young guys that are here, Sandlin as well. Everyone talking about Kyson Witherspoon thinks he's going to fly. I mean, Bennett's right there in AAA as well. So they've got depth still, and it puts the depth they had last year to shame, even if you want to lump Quinn Priester into the mix. Because you've got Cutter Crawford coming back, and you've got Patrick Sandoval coming back, allegedly. I mean, who knows if he's even real? But yeah, they're in a much better position. I still think they're a better team going into this season, especially with Ranger Suarez, than they were last year, because pitching is paramount. And they still have the young guys that are going to play a full year, hopefully with Marcelo. But Roman Anthony for a full season is significant. That is a significant addition to the lineup. People keep acting like Wilson Contreras isn't a power bat. I'm sorry that he hasn't hit that arbitrary 30 homer number yet. He's come close a few times. He hit 24 in 78 games a couple years ago. The dude hits for power. It's nice to see that they, 1, finally signed a free agent. 2, it's somebody actually good. And 3, going into the rotation, knowing that the rotation's a strength is gigantic. Because even last year with Houck coming back, nobody knew Houck was going to be that bad, but nobody really thought Houck was going to sustain the success he had in 2024. This year, it's Bayo's your 4 starter. And that, to me, is kind of how it should be. But it's not because he's pitching like a 4. It's because he's just 4th on the depth chart. And I think that speaks volumes to the work that they've done with the rotation. You can even argue he's the 5, depending on Oviedo with how high they seem to be on him. I'm not there, but they're smarter than me.
I think a couple things to think about here is that I'm not saying the Red Sox are at this level, but you just look at the way the Dodgers have won the last few years is that they have a ton of starting pitchers, just a ton. It wasn't as much the case this past year, but the year before, 24, they were down to like nobody. It was, they had Flaherty still at that point, and like they were down on their 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th options, and they won the World Series. Obviously, they had a World Series team, but that is like so I really think that is the approach that the Red Sox are taking here is let's just get as many starters as we can. And I do think that there will probably be more moves that involve the depth that they've built now. And you think about how you do have to give Craig Breslow credit for how quickly he's made that happen with the Red Sox because it was and it was you mentioned the playoffs this past year, the bad state they were in. But like still in now, third off season with him and where the Red Sox were before that with their pitching depth, it's just crazy. I would say how quickly it has flipped. I think that so like I was going to say, the Dodgers part of it, I think, just like them trying to emulate them is I think clearly the direction that they were trying to go there. There was one other thing I was going to say, but I lost my train of thought. I was so deep in that one. It'll come back to me.
I think they're kind of at the point right now when I look at the roster that they've somewhat built the 2024 Mariners a little bit better offensively, but they have arguably the best pitching staff in baseball. Definitely in the American League, they're in that conversation. It's just where's the offense coming from? Like they still project it. Steamer projects only one Red Sox to have a WRC plus over 120. That's Roman Anthony at 122. Now they typically are on the conservative side of projections. They tend to lowball guys. Like I think even Judge is like a 170 projection, which is nuts, but it's a 30% drop or 30-point drop from last year. But projection wise, the models don't love the Red Sox offense, but I'm at the point where I look at the pitching staff and I don't need their next bat to be like, obviously if they sign Bo Bichette, I'll be over the moon and I'd rather him than anybody else. But if they just get a dude who defends the hell out of second base and isn't a disaster at the plate, like Nico Horner, he's a solid bat. I mean, he hits 300. He's only slightly above average bat from like an OPS standpoint, but he defends the hell out of second base. I tweeted him out earlier. Bryson Stott's another guy. I know he's a lefty, but doesn't really hit all that well, but he's an elite base runner, an elite defensive second baseman. Somebody like that, I would be over the moon with the Red Sox going that route at second base. Now, obviously, if they trade for Ketel or sign Bo Bichette, those are better players. I'll be happier with them. But I'm at the point where I'm shifting my wants from you've got a star to you've got the best pitching staff in baseball, be able to beat teams in a multitude of ways offensively and just defend the hell out of your positions. Because I think an infield defense of Marcelo, Story, Stott / Horner, and Wilson Contreras is arguably one of the best defensive infields in baseball as well. I'm giving a little bit of grace to Story, thinking that he will be better than the -6 outs above average he had in September. But that's kind of where my attention has shifted to. It's got to be an all-star to Gold Glove / Platinum Glove level defender at second base that isn't a complete dumpster fire at the plate, and I'm happy. And I mean, the off season's hard to be an A+ off season, but it's still probably a B grade for me if they were to go the slapdick Gold Glover at second base route.
On that point, I think the decision becomes what do you do with Meyer? Like, does he because I think that he could possibly be good enough if he's healthy, and that's always the caveat with him is if he's healthy. I think at second base he could be Gold Glove level. I think third base, he definitely could. He's definitely showed that he could be great, but maybe third base is the position that you want to have more offense out of. So maybe the play is you go into spring training and it's something of a battle between Meyer and Campbell, and then you focus on third base. I don't think it'll be the other Suarez, just because from the defense standpoint. The only way that happens is if they do find a way to put Yoshida on an ice flow, but like and then he DHs. Like I would be fine with that, but then you'd still need to address third base. But I think that I would really I agree with you that I think the focus needs to be defense at defense at second base and offense at third base. And whatever way that shakes out is, I think, what they have to do. The other point that I wanted to make, I remembered what I was going to say before, which is going back to the pitching piece of it. With Sonny Gray being a free agent after this coming season, I think that it's incumbent on the Red Sox to kind of see how some of these other guys are going to develop, because yes, you have Crochet and Suarez now for at least the next 5 years. But, who is going to step up and what's going to be who's going to kind of replace the Sonny Gray side of things? Maybe you re-sign Sonny Gray if he has a great year and you feel like you can maybe give him a couple years at his age, and if he's still really good and wants to stay here. But I think that's where it's like incumbent on you to really see what you have with both like Oviedo and Bayo. And maybe one of those guys is going to really step up and be more of a sort of a top of the rotation starter. Because you have to keep in mind that thing that, like, yes, next year they're locked in. Like the top three is like these veteran guys that you feel really confident about going forward with. But for in 2026, but Gray is a free agent after next year. So you just have to keep that in the back of your mind, I guess.
Well, I think the big thing too, Han, I wanted to comment on, the defensive approach kind of. And like, I just don't think it's going to come from the free agent market, because they already signed. I think the one thing we didn't bring up, Ranger Suarez has a QO attached to him, and they had to give up their draft picks. I don't think they're going to do that for Bo Bichette. Especially how the Red Sox have been operating, especially since this is a year that they didn't offer anybody a QO. So they're not going to get an extra draft pick this year, barring a trade with a team for a competitive balance pick. But I cannot see them losing 2, or it would be 4 because they're over the first tax. I cannot see them losing 4 draft picks for free agents. I can't see that, especially with Bichette. I also think they'd also be seeing, even if they made trades to free up some money, I don't see that. So the trade market's very interesting. I know there are a bunch of reports with like Marte still, they haven't been available. Like no one's truly off limits until a team goes, here's an offer that you can't refuse. Like, I'm trying to think of a recent example, but I know in the past there have been examples where it's like, yeah, I know he's off limits, but how is this package where with a bunch of diamonds for whatever? Like I just don't see how he's untouchable, but I think that's also a long shot because the Diamondbacks are asking a lot. But I think in terms of good third base, a lot of these guys that Breslow's gotten are ground ball pitchers and guys who are going to put the ball in play. So I think, while yes, you do need to get some offense in this lineup, I think you're never going to get a true good all-around player, but it's also important that you don't have terrible defense at third. And just who's that player? I don't know.
I don't think Isaac Paredes is like a total butcher at third base. Like, I think he would be okay. But again, you're talking about trading for somebody and giving up more assets. If we're going to give up assets, I guess, that's where I would try to make going for Nico Horner would make more sense if we're going to give assets for somebody, because like Horner, the only thing that he doesn't really do is he doesn't hit for power. Like he could maybe at Fenway he could hit 10 home runs next year, but he still was an above average hitter this past year and like an all world defensive second baseman. I just think, again, I'll go back to saying it. To me, it's like you can't go into next year with like an average or worse defensive second baseman being your plan, and that's bad news for Christian Campbell. But I don't know that I really view him as being a second baseman anyway at this point. So I think that, and third base, yeah, defense is important. You're probably going to lose some because like Bregman was a plus defensive third baseman last year, but still needs a little bit more of a bat. And I think that I'm leaning in those directions. You mentioned Stott, Jordan. I don't really see the Phillies trading Stott myself, but I think they view him as
the reason Stott came to mind is because the Phillies are so interested in Bichette, and I don't know if they want to play him at third and trade Bohm. I'd be against Alec Bohm in general,
No.
just nipping
No,
that
thank
thought
you.
in the bud immediately. But
Hard.
in my opinion, Bo Bichette probably projects better as a second baseman long term than he would at third, and I would figure maybe the Phillies would try and because they still need outfield help over there too. Like they signed Adolis Garcia to play right field, but like, are we 100% sure he's good? He hasn't been since the World Series of 2023.
Right.
Their center fielder right now is Johan Rojas, and he's an all-world defender, but he makes Sadon look like Aaron Judge. So it's a mess. Like,
Yeah.
is that a route where you could just do the whole like Craig Breslow baseball trade, where he loves to make these trades with people that used to work for the Red Sox, and maybe that's a Duran pathway. You get Duran for Stott 1-for-1. I don't know what the values are on those guys. I'm just spitballing again. Stott came to my mind literally like an hour after Suarez signed.
I think it would be amazing to get him. But like I said, he's like their kind of defensive anchor there. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I totally agree with what Jason was saying. Like I know that there was this on his live stream, I guess Robert Murray did say that the Red Sox are still a possibility to sign Bichette. I mean, so the Red Sox for signing Suarez are going to lose their second and fifth round picks plus $1 million in bonus pool money. If they sign Bichette, they would lose their third and sixth round picks, and I believe another $1 million in bonus pool money or whatever it is. So you're talking about, it's hard for me to imagine a scenario in which the Red Sox would do that. Now, I posted this that they could. If they really wanted to replace some of that draft capital, they could trade for a competitive balance pick like they did last year when they traded Quinn Priester to the Brewers. They got a competitive balance pick there. The thing they have to be careful about with that is that the way that the rule is written for the QO is that you lose your second pick, whatever that is. So I believe there's other later competitive balance round picks that they could get, but they wouldn't necessarily want to trade for the competitive balance round pick after the first round, because that's the pick they would have to lose. So they would actually keep their second round pick in that case. So there's a lot of ways to look at it, but like signing Bichette to me is way down the list. And so we were talking about the payroll before. The Red Sox, I posted this on Twitter. I'm saying this, and people are going to be shocked to hear this, but this is the truth. At this moment right now, the Red Sox have the highest team payroll in team history right now.
280 mil, right? 270.
270. Well, I don't know what the for AAV purposes for the luxury tax. I'm not sure what the real dollar number is in terms of what they're paying for a payroll, but the AAV for the players that counts towards the luxury tax and all of that stuff is the highest in team history, shade under 270 million. Now, and Jason's right. We don't know what the actual what the budget is, and it is possible that they could be like, okay, the mandate is that we have to get under the second line, so they'd have to trade out somebody, whoever it is, to get under that number. I have a feeling, and I hope this is the case, that they're going to settle somewhere in the 275 to 280 range at the end of the day. Like once they address getting another hitter and maybe some salary moves out, whether it's a Duran trade, they do find somebody to take on some of Yoshida's salary. Maybe it's Patrick Sandoval, something like that. So my guess is that they're gonna still add some more. They'll stay above the second line, which I think at the end of the day, if we look at even losing Bregman and maybe not having the most amazing offseason ever, if we go into the season feeling like they've accomplished a lot, that there's like a complete team here, and they're above that second luxury tax line, it's hard to complain too much, right? I don't know.
Keywords too much, because we still will find a way to complain because we have to. It's what we do. It's in our blood.
Of course.
but yeah, I do think I just looked at the free agents available at middle infield and third base, and oh my god, is it horrible?
Yes. Ramon Arias, right? Like that's one of the names.
Yeah, like I'm looking at second base right now, and they still have David Fletcher there in case he decides not to retire, even though he did like 6 months ago. Like you got Luis Ariz, who's loosely a second baseman, IKF, Adam Frazier, Brendan Rodgers, like Nick Madrigal just signed a minor league deal with somebody, but he's still listed. And then like Dylan Moore, like that's disgusting to be honest. John Birdie's there. They could sign DJ LeMahieu if they wanted to do that. That'd be pretty funny. But yeah, I'm with you. No dice on that. Jose Iglesias is a free agent. Like he's fun. He's fun. That was a fun
music video.
Yeah. But I think if they are going to add
the Mets too.
That's true. Yeah.
I think if they're going to add another infielder, it probably will be via trade. But I do think it's going to be somebody we haven't talked about, and maybe I jinxed it by bringing up Bryson Stott, and that's so that he's off the table now. But like, I don't know if you're thinking offense at third base, and Marcelo plays second. Like I don't know. I mean, the Padres are always trying to shed salary. Is Manny Machado somebody that is potentially available? Would you even be entertaining that? I mean, he's still a monster at the plate.
Yeah, I mean, sure.
But oh my god, would Fenway burn down if they traded for Manny Machado?
I feel better. You know, I don't know. Like I don't hate him as much as I used to. I don't think, but like I think that that's a good question. That's a good point. Somebody like him. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the Rays always have guys laying around that they would trade, right? You know, could we revisit that rumor about Corey Seager and move him to third base? I don't know. Or maybe he'd play second. Like, but yeah, there's oftentimes these things kind of come out of nowhere. Obviously, it's not going to be Nolan Arenado, which I think we can be thankful for. Yeah, it's bleak out there, the free agent side. I think that what I think is going to start happening here is I think like the dominoes are starting to fall on the offseason that we were kind of waiting for so long for them to fall. Like where Bregman signs. The starting pitching market, I think, is really going to start to shake out now. I think my guess is that Valdez will probably sign pretty soon. It drops off a bit after him, I think, right? And then the Kyle Tucker is the really huge name that's still out there. And I think that after, and I think we've talked about this, Jason, in our group chat, like that once Tucker signs, then the market for a potential trade market for Duran or another Red Sox outfielder potentially that becomes a little more clear too. And if Tucker signs with the Mets, does Bichette does that open the door for him to sign back with the Blue Jays? Like I think these dominoes will start to fall in short order here over the next few days to a week or so. And then whoever's left holding the bag after those big guys sign, whether it's, like I said, like Bichette, Tucker, Valdez, like those guys, then the trade market starts to become a little bit more clear, and the options start to shake out a bit. And then maybe that we'll see one or two more trades that the Red Sox are involved in.
I also think you got to look at it like if the Phillies go and sign Bichette, and the Dodgers with their devil magic somehow sign Tucker, which I don't think is out of the realm of possibility, then the runner-ups of these teams are going to they're going to be desperate. Not necessarily, but if it's the other way around, like if Tucker goes to the Mets and Bichette maybe goes back to the Blue Jays, it's the Phillies and Dodgers are like, we have some young guys. We have a good enough core. Like, we don't need Duran. We don't need another outfielder from the Red Sox necessarily. Whatever. But if these my point is, if the big market teams come in, and then it's like the big market teams not named the Mets and the Blue Jays, if they come in and swoop Tucker and Bichette, maybe the Mets go like, okay, yeah, we need an outfielder now because we traded Nimmo away. And maybe what's the other team that I'm missing? The Blue Jays, maybe it has to be a 3-team trade, but they want to do more. They want to do more this offseason. They still have kind of some questions, but point being, you might get some teams starting to get desperate because the free agent market is non-existent for guys. And if you're the Red Sox, if there's a number that you need to be at, and Tucker is the guy who is the domino for more moves to come, I think the Red Sox, they need to make a lot of decisions. They need to make in a timely manner too. That's how I view it.
Yeah, you said coming up on about a month left before pitchers and catchers report. I do think the trade market's going to materialize soon, and like a team like we keep focusing on the big market teams like the Dodgers, obviously because they've got the best farm system in the sport still because they're the Dodgers. That's what they do. But I still wonder about those bubble teams. Like we don't really talk about teams like Cleveland or teams like the Angels or teams like the A's. I mean, I guess maybe not the A's, but teams like the Reds, they need to add to the outfield as well. And like we spend so much time talking about all these other teams. I mean, I don't know. I think another team's going to come out of nowhere and swoop in and want Durant enough because I think it's similar to like when a team that's kind of like the 9 seed or the 8 seed in the NBA will make a win now move. And it's like, oh, well, win now doesn't necessarily mean 2026. But Durant's got 2 more years of team control after that. Do the Reds, if they trade, just to throw a name out there, Noelvi Marte, because I know that he's like loosely available, or at least there's some speculation he might be available. Would they be willing to trade Noelvi Marte for Durant and be like, oh, well, we can kind of see just how close we are if we actually add an impact outfielder? How close are we to being like legitimate threat in the National League Central or the National League in general? Because again, Durant, like people look at Durant's age and act like he's got 1 foot in the grave, but like he's 29. He's not 35. He's not going to just become slow once he hits 30. I think a team out there thinks that Durant's got enough years left being a very good player to jump at him and give the Red Sox something worthwhile. I'm still kind of holding out hope that this is the Diamondbacks, but I don't know about that one. Seems too hell bent on pitching.
Yeah, the Marte thing. Just speaking about Ketel Marte, I'm still of the opinion that I can't really see a scenario where the Diamondbacks are gonna. Yeah, it would have to just be something that's so overwhelming that they're just like, we can't possibly in any universe say no to this. And do you want the Red Sox to be the team that makes that trade? I don't really know. Marte is a perfect fit in like every respect. But they very publicly have said that they're not going to trade him, that they've communicated with the player, that there was supposed to be some sort of face-to-face meeting, I guess, that happened this week or next or at some point between the team brass and Marte, and all get on the same page about it. That is really hard to walk that back. That is really hard to just all of a sudden just be like, hey, actually, we're going to do this. And the thing with Marte is, I believe, right, like early in the season, he gets 10-5 rights. So the D-backs have backed themselves into a corner on this one. I agree that it would just be amazing. It would be the perfect fit. And I think the Red Sox have probably everything that the Diamondbacks would want. But it's just, I think like, if you had a time machine and you could go back and know that the Red Sox weren't going to get Bregman, would they have made an offer that the Diamondbacks couldn't say no to? And at this point, maybe the Red Sox can go back and make the offer that the Diamondbacks couldn't say no to. But still, there has to be something like your word has to mean something. And I do think that matters in the game. I know that, and like the Diamondbacks are a team that I think they have a reputation for being cheap based on their owner, or their owner spends more money on baseball cards than on the team, I think. but you know, they have gone out and signed free agents. They signed Corbin Burns. Like they've done those types of moves, and I think the reputation matters. And Mike Hazen is somebody who has, I think, a really sterling reputation in the game. And to turn around and trade the guy right after that might be tough to get free agents to sign there again. You know, so I just don't see it with Marte as perfect of a fit as it would be.
Every single free agent that the Diamondbacks sign ends up going to shit. If you think about
It's
it,
true.
like Greinke was only there for what, like 2.5 years, only had one good season. Mad Bum was awful. Montgomery was awful. Erod's been awful. Corbin Burns was good, but then he got hurt. So it's like they got to stay away from pitchers, man. They really do. But yeah, I don't know. Like I'm thinking maybe I'm putting my brain in too much of a pretzel here. I think there's got to be a team out there that has a surplus of infielders that's willing to trade one for Jarren Duran. And I don't know who that is. Maybe we should be hoping that the Mets don't get Kyle Tucker, but like I'm not super in love with any of the infielders that the Mets would have to part with. I mean, Vientos is a butcher at third base. Not 100% sold on him as a hitter. Like Luis Angel Acuna can field the hell out of the ball at second base, but like, can he really hit? Not really. So, you know, at that point, you may as well just stick David Hamilton at second base and platoon him with Romy, which actually is, now that I think about it, really not a horrible idea. Now that I said that out loud, but yeah.
Well, they still, like I said before, they still need another third baseman for depth. Like you cannot trot into the season with it just being Meyer and
the return of the prodigal son, Yoan Moncada.
Okay, then I think Fenway would burn.
Yeah, that would be really funny, but no, it really would. Moncada did play for the Red Sox briefly, right? Like he
played like 3 games. He got a double, I think.
Yeah,
I think Eck didn't say this guy's kind of a bum at one point after he like butchered a ball.
That sounds like something Eck would say.
Moncada had one good year. Like he had one, he actually was really good that one 2019. Like that was the juice ball year, but like he was still really good that year. Man, yeah, didn't live up to any kind of expectation after, especially the contract that the bonus that he signed for out of Cuba. But it would be funny for him to come home, but like as a backup, you know, not necessarily playing regularly.
Yeah, I mean, he hit pretty well. I mean, relatively speaking, for the Angels last year. Like he's not horrible, but yeah, he'd probably be like, if they sign him to like a minor league deal, I would lose my mind. I'm rooting for that outcome because I've heard nothing on him. I mean, again, thinking the free agent market, like there's also Luis Rengifo, who's no thanks on that as well. So it's got to be a trade, or they like their options internally. And I don't think they'd be wrong to just say that's it. We're good with what we've got, and we'll make Yoshida the most expensive backup in the world. And because at some point somebody's going to get hurt and Yoshida will have to play every single day. I don't know, but it's nice to finally have some impact coming into the building, so we don't have to talk about all the impact that's going to other teams or leaving the building. So it's nice. I feel like we barely actually talked about Ranger Suarez.
Yeah, just a little bit of I mean, again, he's a really good pitcher, and it's good to add a good pitcher. You know, I think I feel like the contract's like right around what he was projected to get. You know, I think I think there was at least one projection that I saw it was like basically dead on, like exactly. And what's fascinating to me is that obviously he didn't get as much money as Dylan Cease, but you could argue that, and I think our friend Ed Hand would say that the Red Sox signed the best free agent starting pitcher on the market this offseason. You know, and then how many times can you say that that the Red Sox went out and signed like the top pitcher on the free agent market? It's like, you know, David Price, and it's not a lot of other examples.
John Lackey.
John Lackey was kind of was. I think that offseason he was probably the best starting pitcher on that free agent market. Although I remember that particular offseason, everybody thought we were going to sign Matt Holliday, and they pivoted and signed Lackey instead. So yeah, I'm I think you got to look at this rotation and say this is really solid. Like this is a rotation that you're ready to do battle over 6 months in the regular season with and go to the playoffs with them.
You gotta love where they are now compared to where they were at the end of 2024. Like at the end of the season, I know they traded for Crochet, but like going in, 2024 they have Bayo, Hauk, Cutter Crawford, who led the league in losses,
and home runs allowed.
Pavetta, and then Cooper Criswell was their 5 starter, and then now you have really that rotation, right? Like that's nothing compared to what it is now, and that turnover happened in 2 years, which is impressive. And
you could honestly argue, so like Bayo was the opening day starter in 2024.
right,
You could argue that he is outside the top 5 most talented pitchers the Red Sox have in the 40-man. You could make that case. Like Crochet, definitely. Ranger Suarez, maybe not more talented, but definitely better. Like, I mean, again, like what's the difference between like, you're as good as your numbers say you are, but Gray's better, more talented. Peyton Tolley oozes talent, but that's mostly heater right now. Connolly early talent-wise, like all of his stuff put together, like he, I think, has even a higher floor than Bayo does. And then you've got Cutter, who's been a good major league starter before. I wouldn't argue in favor of him over Bayo, but like Patrick Sandoval had a year with a 2.91 ERA. It was a while ago, but he had a really good year with the Angels, a couple of good years with the Angels. So like Bayo went from the ace of the staff, baby Pedro, to like the 5 starter. And then obviously Oviedo, again, depending on who you talk to, they'd probably argue Oviedo over Bayo as well. I do wonder what his long-term future looks like, but I think that's probably more of a 2027 offseason discussion.
The team is just overall is you mentioned that like 2027, the team is projected to have a pretty high payroll again, next year, and then it gets kind of interesting after 2027 . But
because Yoshida's gone, Story's gone.
Yeah, they'll be it'll be. Well, Chapman signed for 2 years, right?
I think this year, and then it's investing. I forget how it vests, but
so it's there'll be money to spend after that. But like this year and next year, the Red Sox are locked in at like pretty big salary numbers for a lot of guys. And but Bayo, I'm fascinated. I don't know, maybe another team is interested and willing to take him off their hands if the Red Sox are really enamored with, like, I think I saw somebody else say this, but like having Crochet and Suarez at the top of your rotation as lefties, it doesn't bode great for both Early and Tolley, like, because it's like, I don't think I can imagine the Red Sox having like 4 of their 5 rotation spots taken up by left-handed pitchers in a division with guys like Aaron Judge and Pete Alonso and Vlad Jr. and
and Junior Caminero.
Like there's
every
a big
single
righty.
team's got a big righty bopper. Yeah,
exactly. So I don't see it, but it's there. There are more shoes to drop, and we'll see how quickly those shoes drop.
Yeah, I had thought about that too when they signed Suarez. Like that was where my my initial reaction was to the player they signed, and then my second one was like, if we're talking about the lefties that they have in-house already, Suarez reminds me, Connolly's got a better fastball than him, but he reminds me a lot of Connolly, where it's like secondaries are kind of the weapon that will help him stay effective at the big league level for a long time. And you sign him for a 5-year deal. Now you didn't put the no trade in there, so at a moment's notice they can decide they don't want him anymore. But I think that there's at least a willingness to part with one of them at this point, because like you said, four lefties in a 5-man rotation. And maybe they're foolproofing their plan, and like if they want to use Tolley as a reliever this year, because they've done that with Hauk and they did that with Cutter and they did that. Bay only made a couple of relief appearances, but like they've done it before where they'll take a top pitcher in their organization and stick him in the bullpen just to get him in the major leagues and pitch against big league hitters. So maybe they do that, but at some point they got to decide if he's a starter or they don't, and they just trade him and they get a lot of impact in return.
They have time to figure it out too.
Yeah.
And I think too, I think this spring training is going to tell a lot about Tolley specifically and seeing, okay, the fastball jumped so far last offseason. How are the secondaries going to jump? And if the Red Sox feel like there's no progress and it's like these secondaries are going to be at best average, and then like he's destined for a bullpen role. But if they feel like, okay, the secondaries made a huge jump, then that's interesting because now you're looking at another premier guy in the rotation. Then you can start asking questions. And these guys are young, and a lot of them have reliever risk too, and not just Tolley. You still have some time to figure it out. Obviously you want to field the best team now, but I feel like that's why we haven't seen the Red Sox do any bullpen moves, because everyone's like, they got to make a bullpen signing, a major league. Like they'll make minor league bullpen signings for depth, but like, I think a lot of people are upset that they haven't done anything in the bullpen. And I mean, yeah, it's kind of frustrating. You're not paying for certainty here, but what are the odds? Like, okay, maybe Tolley's going to slot in as a high leverage arm this year, or maybe Cutter Crawford is going to be the back end. Who knows? It's something that spring training is going to tell us, and we're going to find stories about that sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
They have several big league starters that are like that could start in most rotations that might be in the bullpen this season.
Look at the Dodgers.
It's like, yeah, think about like they gave Patrick Sandoval like all this money, again, another left-handed starter, and it's like what is the point of even having him? I do think that Patrick Sandoval is the guy that, again, the rest of the starting rotation or the starting market is going to shake out, and the guys that are probably tabbed to get 1-year deals, a guy like a Lucas Giolito, like those guys will sign, and then maybe there'll be a trade market for a guy like Patrick Sandoval as long as he is like semi-healthy. And I don't know, maybe the Red Sox will have to pay down some of that, but that is something to at least consider.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating to see how it all shakes out, because I believe that they're not done. They're going to add a bat. It just may be an underwhelming one at that. Maybe it's Yohan Moncada. That'd be I said that out loud, and now I'm like, the chaos in me really wants that to happen. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that all shakes out. Do you have anything else we want to talk about? Any other thoughts? I know it's not a super long episode, but it's just one move. We are only 3 people.
No, I mean, it's, can't get on them for not spending free agent money. They've not only that, they spent quite a bit. So, and yeah, I'm more excited definitely about the season now than I was this morning, but there's still work to be done. And I think they know that. So, and I would be surprised if this was not the biggest move of the offseason. Like, this is probably going to be it. It would be, I don't even know, like, again, Bichette feels very unlikely. There could be a blockbuster type trade that we don't see coming, but this feels like it was the big move of the offseason.
I think that's the big addition. I think Duran / Bayo, especially in the world that they're packaged, that's bigger. But I think you're right in the fact that he's the biggest addition to the team, no doubt. But I mean, credit to the Sox for doing this in a timely manner, quickly pivoting. The last thing I'll bring up is there was a report earlier today that I think it was Bradfo, that opposing teams were like viewing the Sox as being more aggressive. I think that was more towards pitching, but I think still, even in the realm of a position player, it's still interesting because now they hopefully have a plan in mind, something in mind that they can do, and someone they have targeted to go after. And it's going to be interesting to see how this shapes out. And last thing, in the Fenway Fest, whatever they call it now, Craig Breslow said, I didn't really envision trading an outfielder, which I think a lot of people are saying that, and they're like, oh no, like, oh, they're not trading him anymore, whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, what is he going to say? Oh yeah, we're definitely trading an outfielder. Then you lose all your leverage.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think so much can change in an instant where it's like, yeah, how's Cole Reagans for Jarren Duran? Like, you're not going to say no to that, like in a hypothetical world. So no one's off limits. And I think you can still, I think one of the outfielders will get moved. I still think.
For somebody as vague as Craig Breslow is, people love taking him so literally.
It's just, like, this is just what, it's what people do. It's the content. It's the feeding the content beast. This is originated with, as most things in Boston media do, with the way that it, going back 10, 15 years with the outset of Felger and Maz, like, this is just how they've made their bones, is by picking apart everything someone says in a press conference. And I think that it's like even the sort of the buzz quote of this offseason, the aggressive and decisive thing, like, I'm pretty sure that if you listen back to that whole quote, he caveated and was like, well, it's not always up to us, and things don't always come together, but we want to be aggressive and decisive. Like, it was the whole thing was a nothing burger quote. Like, but like, people just kind of honed in on that one part. Which is fine. He did say that, but like, it's not, everybody takes everything so literally.
Yeah, it's very political what he says. Like, he answers questions without actually answering questions. And like Jason said, the moment he goes, oh yeah, my number one goal this offseason was to trade an outfielder. Well, guess what you're not getting for any of your outfielders? Any sort of value whatsoever. And then also, like, we saw it last season after the deadline when everyone called it a failure that they didn't trade an outfielder. Roman got hurt. Imagine if they had traded Duran at the deadline and Roman got hurt. Like, Nate Eaton would have been playing every single day.
Right, yeah.
Or Yoshida would have been in the outfield. Like, that would have been so bad that, like, there's a reason, there's a method to the madness, and I don't want to go and become a Craig Breslow defender, because then that'll make me look like the biggest hypocrite on the planet. But like, he's not going to publicly say that he's trading somebody. He didn't even privately say he was trading Devers. He just ended up dealing him to the Giants. Like,
right, yeah.
Like, this dude is buttoned up, and he's aware that they have to do something with their outfield. He's not going to have this contingent of outfielders unless he's changed his mind about Rafaela playing second base, which I think would be silly, but that is also an option.
I keep going. People keep bringing that up, and again, it depends on what we're kind of going back on what I was just saying about, like, taking what people say literally. I just do feel like every time that the Rafaela at second base thing gets brought up, whether it's Breslow or Cora, they're just like, no, we're not doing that. Like, so, and I think Cora knows, especially, how much better off they are with him in center field. So, to be determined, I guess, on that. Like, it is an option, but I don't, especially now, like, after getting Suarez, after getting a guy who's a ground ball merchant, like, Rafael can hold down second base. Okay, he can play there fine, but like, I would rather have somebody every day at second base who's an everyday really solid, like rock solid, is going to get to every ball and make every throw and make every play second baseman. Like, and that's not Rafaela.
No, it sounds a lot like Nico Horner, but we'll see.
I agree.
We'll see if that ends up happening. The Cubs did say that they need to be blown away, which, I mean, again, like, he's a good player, obviously. Like, if they're not going to bring back Kyle Tucker. They traded Owen Casey. Like, is that a Duran destination? Could be. I mean, they'd probably have to deal Horner maybe a little bit more, and there's more pieces involved in the trade just to kind of get the values even. But like, they're not, like, Cora literally said the other day at Fenway Fest when he got asked about Sadon playing second base, he's like, no, I got to go talk to Craig about that. Like, he literally was like, it's like how people react to TV writing. Like, they need everything spelled out for them. It's like, if you actually look at the context clues, like, Cora literally said he has to go talk to Breslow about not playing Sadon at second base. The only way to make that a guarantee, add a second baseman and trade an outfielder.
Yeah. Right.
You don't need him to tell you point blank that he's going to do it.
Exactly.
To know that they're aware that they have to do that. Or trade Sadon, which would also, I think, be silly, but that's beside the point.
Yeah.
Although there's been some smoke about that recently too, but
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that it's all going to depend on the offers they get and who wants who, and like the cleanest thing is to trade Duran, but Rafaela, I honestly don't see them trading Abreu, because I just think like they've been very clear that they want him to be an everyday player. They want him to get more at bats against lefties, and for a team that needs power, it's to me, trading away Abreu doesn't really make any sense. So I feel like you can lock in Abreu and Anthony on the corners, and the question is going to be who plays center field.
Yeah,
Probably.
With you there. All right, we got to an hour.
Woo-hoo!
Let's go.
Bang.
Let's go.
This was fun.
Yeah. So that'll do it for this edition of the Pesky Report. Again, episode 544, presented by Beyond the Monster. For Jason and Jake, I'm Jordan. Until next time, peace out. Go Sox.